Good morning, Jed. Every time we play that song, it feels like a fake song made for like a fake morning show. That can't be a real song. And I'm still hung up on the Halloween segment. I love Lemore Suss, but the mask under the mask thing, just and I think I'm just going to throw the candy at the kids.
Coming from the CDC, at some point we're going to have to regain our sanity.
At some point.
We are spinning off into some crazy areas. We want everybody to have a safe and happy Halloween. You know, that number, 56 million people who have already voted, includes at this point the leader of the free world. It does not yet include Jedediah Bila or Will Cain. I do not believe it yet includes Pete Hegseth either.
The vote?
Early voting.
100%.
You already have.
I voted, and I drove it to the election, the Board of Elections, and handed it to the Board of Elections person. I'm not putting that thing in the mail. Come on. So I'm in there. I'm in that 56 million.
Well, forgive me for that mischaracterization. We have, before we hit the road, both of us, for Election Day, we have a few days to get out there, Jedediah, to get our votes in for early balloting, and I plan to do it today. President Trump, by the way.
Yeah, I'm gonna head over on Monday, Will. So you'll beat me by one day.
President Trump is still looking to sway voters who have not yet voted, like the two of us. He wrapped up a marathon day of campaigning in battleground states, and he's going to head back out on the trail today. 9 days to go, as we said. He's holding 2 events in Pennsylvania. Yesterday, Joe Biden held 2 events in Pennsylvania. Forgive me. He is home today. So over the next 3 days, I believe it is 11 events for President Trump. It is 2 that we know of right now for Joe Biden.
Wait, so we're 9 days from the election.
Right.
And Joe Biden's staying at home today?
He's staying home today.
Okay.
Yeah. There's some celebrities out, some surrogates, some celebrities. Cher's getting out there.
Okay.
Yeah. Bon Jovi,
you're not really getting out there, virtually getting out there.
It's true, for a virtual concert.
Big stuff.
That's right. But go ahead.
Sometimes you don't even know what to say. So but it is amazing if you're tuning in and watching the news throughout the day. Yesterday was one of those days. I think the next 9 will be as well, where you turn your head, you look away, you look up, President Trump still talking, and then he's in a new place still talking, and then he's in a new place still talking. You cannot doubt the vigor with which he will campaign. Here's a portion of what both Donald Trump and Joe Biden said yesterday on the campaign trail.
It's go time. It's game day. We have 10 days left. We know we're so much better than this. So much better. We can build back better than before. That's who we are.
At the debate this week, the American people saw a contrast between a 47-year career politician who's seen better days. You want to do all this stuff. Why didn't you do it? You were there 3.5 years ago. Do it.
And they are entertaining. I may look a little tired because I was up watching that speech in Wisconsin. You get a little something different every time. And, Jed, I don't know, is the guy standing on the stage screaming at you technique a very effective one? Because that's when you listen to Joe Biden, you're like, when is he going to stop screaming at me? And is he even having fun? It feels like that's exactly the tone.
I think they have 2 completely different strategies, 2 completely different tones, 2 completely different visions, very, very different candidates, which I like, because when people make a decision, we will be able to say, well, this is what people were embracing versus what they weren't. There's a clear distinction here. And I think Joe Biden's just made a calculation, a political calculation. He has not been front and center as much as President Trump. He's watching the polls. He's concluding, and his team are concluding that it has helped him to sit back a little bit, to let President Trump be out front and center at those rallies. And Joe Biden just feels like he hasn't suffered. It does become challenging, and I mentioned this earlier in the show, but for those just tuning in, it does become challenging at this point. You have to kind of decide as a candidate what the goal is. Is the goal to rally the base? Is the goal to sway undecideds? Because the way you speak and what you speak about and how you address people really has the ability to go in 2 very different directions. And the way you do it in order to rally a base may be very different from the way you do it in a way that will hopefully sway undecided. So strategically, I think it is a bit of a challenge for the Trump campaign. Very different delivery from him in the last debate versus what you see at the campaign rally. So I think Joe Biden has just said, you know what? Perhaps being front and center more will just marginalize some voters. Let me sit back. It seems to be working, and let's just play out the next 9 days.
2 notes on that. It would seem that the Biden campaign is confident. If you read into those campaign schedules with Joe Biden sitting back and, in fact, making his only stops in Georgia, which would expand the map, it would seem they are confident in their position going into this election. The question is it earned confidence, or is it irrational confidence? You point out undecided voters, Jedediah. Who is still left to sway? Earlier in the show, I talked to some undecided voters. We'll share some of that sound with you a little bit later. What is left to sway them? What issues are still out there? I would offer you this is potentially one of them, at least in places like Pennsylvania, perhaps Ohio, perhaps New Mexico, and perhaps Texas. The issue of fracking, it impacts employment, it impacts gas prices, it impacts many aspects of life, and many are left wondering where exactly is Joe Biden on fracking, because at any given moment, he seems to have been on every side of this issue. Watch.
I will not ban fracking, period. I'll protect Pennsylvania jobs, period. No matter how many times Donald Trump says it. Unlike Donald Trump, I don't think big oil companies need a handout of federal government. We're going to get rid of the $40 billion fossil fuel subsidies, and we're going to invest it in clean energy and carbon capture.
That's what Joe Biden is saying today. Of course, that's not what he's always said when it comes to fracking. And many have noticed. In fact, even Saturday Night Live. Watch this.
As promised, I have saved exactly 60 seconds for climate change. Mr. Vice President.
Well, since we're almost out of time, oil no, wind yes, fracking depends on what state I'm in.
That's right. I think the president's team has been so miffed about how he's tried to play this off. They've actually, if you watch the rallies, they've taken to playing a video. They just cut to the video for 2 minutes, and they let Joe talk over the last couple of years, where he quite clearly contradicts himself over and over again, depending on what audience he's talking to, whether he's in the primary, whether he's in the general. People see through that. And we will play that clip of your interview with undecided voters earlier in the show, which was fantastic. And yes, they talked about the key issues, but things like law enforcement, supporting the police, things like, hey, can't we love our country anymore? Those came up. Things like the radical left, and is Joe Biden really captured by them? So a lot of those core cultural themes fit into a lot of the way people are making their decision as well. And you mentioned, is it an overcalculation? Jed, you said, is it a strategy not to go on the campaign trail for Joe Biden? I don't know. It could be hubris and it could be arrogance, but it could also be they don't have another option. Listen, Joe's not on his A game. He's not on his B game. Okay, he's not even on his C game. You don't want him speaking. He's screaming at a very large teleprompter with no audience. He doesn't have the energy he once had. Why would you put a bad candidate out even more to expose him? It is a strategy because they don't have another option. And they're hoping Donald Trump makes a mistake. They were hoping he would in the debate, and he didn't. He had a very strong debate performance. And that's a four corners delay offense with the other team pressing you, which I wouldn't want to be in that position if I was the Biden camp.
It's a strategy of two parts. It's a COVID-19 strategy because that has been the distinction that they have made between themselves and President Trump. It is a strategy. They believe in, the social distancing. They've implemented that. They've wanted that clear delineation between the two campaigns. And it's also a strategy of him knowing that people are voting against Trump. They're not voting for Joe Biden in large part. I'm sure he has some supporters that are really happy that he's top of the ticket. But a lot of those people, I hear them say, it's not about Biden. We don't love Joe Biden. He's been a career politician for years, but we're voting against Trump. The thing is, though, that still translates to votes. That is still, it may not be enthusiasm for Biden, but enthusiasm against Trump will drive people to the polls. The question is, will it drive as many people to the polls as enthusiasm for Trump will drive on the other side? And that remains to be seen. It will be a very, very interesting 9 days to come. But for now, we're going to turn to some headlines for you. Oh, sorry, Will, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think that is the characterization. The question is the numbers. We know at this point it's boiling down to people who cannot get over President Trump's personality, swayable voters, people who cannot get over President Trump's personality versus those who are going to vote against the radical left and vote for President Trump's policies. We heard that from the independent voters, the undecided voters we spoke to earlier, and we're seeing that play out. The question is the numbers. How many people fall into those camps?
And could Bernie voters be turned off if he moves too far to the middle, which is part of the conundrum he has on fracking, right? So we'll see.
Yeah. Lots to say on that undecided panel that Will did earlier, and hopefully we'll get to that later. But for now, we have some headlines. 5 top aides for Vice President Pence test positive for COVID-19. Among them, Chief of Staff Mark Short and political advisor Marty Obst. Both are in quarantine. The New York Times reporting 3 other VP staffers have tested positive. The Vice President and Second Lady tested negative for the virus yesterday. And this just in, Dr. Anthony Fauci says a COVID-19 vaccine could be ready by the end of this year.
We will know whether a vaccine is safe and effective by the end of November, the beginning of December. The question is, once you have a safe and effective vaccine, or more than one, how can you get it to the people who need it as quickly as possible?
Dr. Fauci says the first doses would go to people at high risk and healthcare workers, and that a vaccine wouldn't be widely available until next year. And turning now to the World Series, the Tampa Bay Rays winning Game 4 on a wild final play. Check this out.
Jansen. That is into center field. Here comes Kiermaier. Phillips has tied the game. Arose Arena coming around. Throw home. Now he stumbles. But the ball gets away. Tampa Bay wins it.
The LA Dodgers giving the Rays a walk-off victory after an error on the throw home. Tampa winning 8-7, tying the World Series 2-2. Don't miss Game 5 tonight, only on Fox. And those are your headlines.
So many bobbles, so many stumbles on that one play until it eventually catches up at the
Two
plate.
errors on the defense, and the guy around in third stumbled and fell on his face.
Right.
That's why he was hung up on the play to begin with. It's the playoffs.
Still ahead, former President Obama returns to the campaign trail, launching blistering attacks on President Trump's policies. His latest target, the economy. Is it justified? We'll ask Juan Williams next.
Let the music pull you in. Good job.
In American history that we got started, but just like everything else he inherited, he fumbled it. He doesn't have a plan. He doesn't even acknowledge the reality of what's taking place all across the country.
Former President Obama slamming President Trump's handling of the economy as he campaigns for Joe Biden in Florida. So will this resonate with voters? Let's ask Fox News political analyst and the 5 co-hosts, Juan Williams. Juan, good morning. Thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate it. You're a busy man. We're 9 days.
With you, Pete.
It's great to have you here. You're a busy man. We're 9 days from the election. I would argue you're probably busier than Joe Biden at this point with all the analysis you're giving. Come on, you know it's fair. But the former President Obama is back on the trail, making the case that the world would return to greatness if only Joe Biden was there, a guy he didn't want to endorse and he didn't want to run at a certain point. To help break down whether or not this is effective, because on the debate stage you saw it. President Trump looked across at Joe Biden and said, I ran because of you, because of that slow economic recovery and the people that were being left behind. Can Barack Obama really help move the needle for Joe?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, he's clearly, I think, the preeminent figure in the Democratic Party, apart from the nominee, Joe Biden, at this moment. And you think of the power he has, Pete, in terms of his popularity. Remember, he left office and his approval rating, favorability, was plus 60. President Trump has never even come close to that. So it gives you an idea of the stature this man has, not only in the Democratic Party, but in American life. And specifically, I would advise you to look at the power. I'm sorry, just let me finish this point. I think specifically I'd advise you to look at the power he has with minority voters.
Why hasn't he been more prominently featured throughout then? If we saw Michelle Obama, who's very popular amongst Democrats, give one closing statement a week and a half ago. Barack Obama's barely been on the trail, as I said, didn't want Joe to win. Is that an issue of Obama never believing Joe should have been the nominee to begin with? I mean, that's kind of an open secret, isn't it?
No, it's not. I listened to what you said, and I think what you more heard was that the former President Obama really was cautious about Joe Biden taking this step and saying, Joe, you don't have to do it. But he's been clearly a Biden supporter all along, to the point where several people who were running against Joe Biden cautioned him not to endorse Joe Biden early, to let the primary process play out and not make it seem like the establishment was picking a candidate. So I think that was one of the hindrances there for Obama making a clear statement early on. But obviously, Biden was his vice president. But the point now is, I think, that he didn't come out earlier because, Pete, you're a great athlete. And I think, you save your closer, your finisher, whether it's a relay race or a baseball game, for the final run. And right now is the final stretch, and that's where you got your closer, Barack Obama, in the game.
Well, for Joe Biden, Barack Obama is still his closer because he's not out there closing. I have to ask about this, though, because you look at the rallies for the president, and the crowds remain huge, and there's a lot of enthusiasm, spontaneous parades across the country. You don't see that for Joe Biden, in part because of the campaign approach that they've taken. Deep down, and be honest, do you have any concerns about an enthusiasm gap on your side when it comes to actually turning out the vote? Not the polls, turning it out.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you saw this. The enthusiasm was on the president's side when people were doing polling for most of this campaign. But what we see now in the polls, the latest Fox poll has both sides in the 80% range in terms of people enthusiastic about their candidate. So I think that has now, we look at the long lines at early voting sites, I think that clearly has turned. I think there's equal passion on both sides right now for their candidates. And, you know, we'll see what happens. But right now, in terms of early voting, gosh, the early voting setting records, Pete. You know
it sure is. It sure is. Real quick, exit question. About a week and a half ago, Bernie Sanders, or I think it was last week, Bernie Sanders came out and announced he would have his own first 100-day plan alongside or in addition to whatever a Joe Biden presidency, if that were to happen, would do. Is there still a big tension between the left and the Biden campaign? Are you split?
Oh, I think that there's some differences. I don't think there's any question there. But in terms of tension, I think the story has been that people like Bernie Sanders and others on the far left of the party who didn't win the nomination so far have folded their tent and said, we're with Joe. And again, you know, there was real question about whether or not, given what happened last time, you'd see some people say, oh, I'm not going to, you know, back the party candidate. I want my guy. I want what I want right now. That hasn't happened. And I think, again, your earlier question about support for Biden and passion, I think that indicates how important this election is for Democrats across the range of political viewpoints.
Or they've dragged Joe into their leftist tent. That's another way to look at it, too, and maybe he's getting cozy in there. Juan, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Great to have you on this Sunday morning.
Have a great Sunday, Pete.
We'll be watching you.
Thank you.
Straight ahead, Scott Peterson back in court. We got new developments with Nancy Grace coming up
there. Once again, Jedediah, over to you.
Thanks, Will. Another bombshell in the Scott Peterson case. Just weeks after his death sentence was overturned, a California court is now taking a second look at his murder conviction due to an error in the original jury selection. Peterson made a virtual court appearance on Friday. He was found guilty in 2004 for the murder of his pregnant wife, Lacey, and their unborn child. Our next guest was outside the courthouse every day during the initial trial. Here now is Fox Nation host Nancy Grace. Nancy, welcome. This is really interesting curveball. So talk about this retrying of the case. Is this common? Does this happen? And why is it happening in this case?
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me. It very, very rarely happens, especially in a death penalty case, and I'll tell you why. Only certain lawyers are qualified to try death penalty cases. You've got to have a lot of experience to do that. The court is very careful in all of its rulings in a death penalty case because someone's life hangs in the balance. Therefore, I believe you see fewer errors in death penalty cases. However, the California Supreme Court has made it very clear Scott Peterson is guilty. There was nothing wrong that happened during the trial. The errors under the law occurred during jury selection. Some of the jurors said they were opposed to the death penalty, just a handful, and they were not questioned further. Now we have alleged juror misconduct. One juror said she was not a crime victim, but as it turns out, she had filed a TRO, protective order, against her boyfriend's ex-girlfriend who was harassing her, the juror, during the juror's pregnancy. So that is a problem. But the bombshell to me is that in the last hours, the state, Stanislaus County, has announced, fine, we will retry the penalty phase. We're not going to just let him have life behind bars. We're going to retry him and seek the death penalty again. Now, here's what you just said, Jed. The California Supreme Court is now saying, well, maybe the whole conviction should be thrown out. You know what? That's okay. This is why. When you retry a penalty phase, the jury really needs to hear the whole kit and caboodle, all the facts and evidence before they decide death penalty or life. So the state, in effect, is going to have to put on all the evidence anyway. So have at it.
So what do you anticipate in terms of time frame here? Is this something that goes on for months, for years? What happens here?
I think it'll be a lot quicker than that because, first of all, there is a new defense lawyer. His name is Pat Harris. He said immediately that he needed time. And you know what? He's right, because he's got to assimilate all of this evidence and get ready for trial. The state needs to put it all back together again. You know what? When I first went to the DA's office, once I started trying homicides, I tried a very old case that had to be retried. Very difficult to put that murder case back together again. Thankfully, I did, and the jury convicted. But it's really hard to find all those witnesses again. Some have moved, some have died, things have changed, to try to present a case to a jury. But I think Stanislaus County is up for it. I would predict it's going to happen within the next 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years. Nancy Grace, great stuff as always. And people should check out Crime Stories with Nancy Grace. It is available now on Fox Nation. It's good stuff. You definitely don't want to miss it. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
The president ending yesterday's marathon day on the campaign trail in the battleground state of Wisconsin, where our next guests, Sean Duffy and Rachel Campos Duffy, call home. So how do they think the president is doing in the swing state? They're going to the MAGA nuns. They stood front row right behind President Trump at his Ohio rally.
The sisters wearing MAGA face masks. One of them held up a Bible while the other two held rosaries in their hands.
The show-stealing sisters also winning over hearts on the internet, many saying they loved seeing them at the rally, myself included. Spotted them right away. I said, that is something you don't see every day. Let's bring in Sean Duffy, former Wisconsin congressman and Fox News contributor, along with Rachel Campos Duffy, Fox News contributor and host of Moms on Fox Nation. Rachel, I thought of you when I saw the MAGA nuns. I thought you...
I love them too. They were awesome. And they, I don't know how much of the speech they were listening to, because they were definitely praying that rosary. And I know Joe Biden carries the rosary in his ad, but these nuns were actually praying the rosary. So I think that's what Donald Trump will need to win this election, because I think this election is going to be very tight.
You know what? I think you're right. I want to get your take on that. Sean, I'll start with you, because if you talk to folks inside the Trump world, they're feeling better about the South, North Carolina and Florida, but they're still looking at states like Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin as where they're going to be fighting to the very end.
I think that's right, the Rust Belt, Pete. So, but what I think matters is you saw Donald Trump was in Wisconsin last night. He's coming back in a few days. He was here last week. Joe Biden was here twice in the last 2 years. He hasn't shown up. And, I run, many races and hard races. The best thing you can have as a candidate is an opponent who's lazy. You have Donald Trump, who's running like he's in the WWF, and Joe Biden, who's running like he's, in the Westminster Dog Show. That matters because you have some persuadables still out there, but in Wisconsin, like in Michigan and Pennsylvania, this is going to be about turnout. And when Donald Trump comes, you see these massive crowds that energizes his base, which is really important if you're going to win on Election Day. One other point, Pete, Donald Trump was in Janesville last week, and he had like 10, 12,000 people there. And of that crowd, 26% of them didn't even vote in 2016. So there's a whole new slew of Trump voters that didn't show up 4 years ago, which I don't think really gets picked up in the polling.
Very interesting.
Rachel, let's talk about identity politics. Let's talk about race. It seems to define so many conversations in America today. In fact, it was the conversation that comedian Chelsea Handler brought up recently when it comes to her former boyfriend, 50 Cent. Let's watch this first.
Okay.
Doesn't want to pay 62% of taxes because he doesn't want to go from being 50 cent to 20 cent. And I had to remind him that he was a black person, so he can't vote for Donald Trump.
Rachel, I think irony is the word I'm looking for here. First of all, isn't that ironic? That's one of the most racist comments I could possibly imagine. But second, when it comes to these accusations of bigotry constantly, they don't seem to be working, at least when it comes to the Latino vote. I know you have some information on that.
Well, can I just backtrack a little bit on Chelsea Handler? She not only said that he doesn't know he's black, so he's not allowed to vote for, because she had to remind him, by the way, so he's not allowed to vote for Donald Trump. She also offered sexual favors if he would change his mind and vote for Joe Biden, which is what the left, I think, thinks is female empowerment. I thought it was absolutely disgusting for her to even joke about that.
We call it prostitution.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. But also on the Hispanic front, yeah, Hispanics are on board with Donald Trump in numbers we have never seen. I think he's going to approach George Bush numbers, which I think, you know, if you take Chelsea Handler and you take what's happening with Hispanics who are, you know, really fired up about socialism, about Donald Trump's approach to taxes and free enterprise and small business. All of this stuff is very appealing to Hispanics, as well as the Catholic vote and pro-life stuff. What I think is interesting, no matter what happens in this election, is you are seeing minorities, black, whites, black, Asians, and Hispanics looking at things in different ways, not feeling bound by the party, waking up to the idea that there's a lot of white people that are telling them how to vote, and they don't like it. And so whatever happens in this election, I think Donald Trump is, you know, shaking it up a bit. And I think moving forward, more Hispanics are going to vote, not based on heritage or what their dad voted for because he was a Union Democrat, but they're going to be looking at policies, and hopefully that will play out in this election too.
Hey, because everybody loves freedom, right? Everyone loves opportunity, and everybody loves lower taxes. With 50 cents, that I don't want to be 20 cents, I want to be 50 cents. That matters across the board, no matter what race you are.
Imagine
that.
that.
Chelsea,
That's
by
radical.
The way,
Be careful.
Said,
right. It's radical. Thinking for
Chelsea
yourself.
Said she would pay his extra taxes, but I don't think she offered to do that for the rest of America.
Right.
So, Sean, you brought up taxes. You brought up a few issues there. Being 9 days away, I mean, we're in the final home stretch here. If you could list out a few of the issues that you think are on people's minds right now in this late stage as they head into the voting booths.
Yeah, so look back to the last debate when Joe Biden mentioned he's going to get rid of oil and gas, right? You'd think Wisconsin, we don't have oil and gas, but we have the best frac sand in America. It's the hardest, roundest sand. We have huge facilities in central and western Wisconsin. So fracking matters to us in Wisconsin. We have way better sand than Pete does in Minnesota. So it's a huge industry for us. Definitely. So that matters. But really, we have a huge manufacturing base. So trade has mattered, and fair trade policies that have come from Donald Trump for our manufacturers to be treated fairly in this new global economy. Farming matters. Dairy, we have a huge dairy industry. We have ginseng and cranberries. And so USMCA was important to us as well. But I think one of the biggest issues is health care, right? And Joe Biden's out there talking about health care and how he's going to reduce costs with his new health care plan. Donald Trump is the only one who's brought down health care costs with what he's done with prescription drugs. He's done most favored nations, which means he looks at 10 countries, does an assessment of the prices, and makes sure that American consumers don't pay more than these other countries, which is a really good thing. We're not subsidizing the rest of the world, bringing down drug prices. I think that matters, too, to Wisconsin voters.
Definitely. Sean, Rachel, I've given up a long time ago on attempting to defend Minnesota compared to Wisconsin. I won't even try. But maybe on Election Day, Minnesota will bring some surprising heat for the president. We'll see. Guys, Rachel and Sean, always love having you guys on. Have a great Sunday.
You guys have a good day.
All right, turning now to your headlines. An Iowa farmer who's featured on a Democrat's campaign mailer says he actually supports her Republican opponent. He told the Washington Free Beacon that he's voting to re-elect Senator Joni Ernst. She's being challenged by Democrat Senate nominee Teresa Greenfield, who used the farmer on her campaign mailer. The farmer says he knew it would be used as a stock photo, but said he would have appreciated a courtesy call from Greenfield's campaign. And in-person learning may not happen anytime soon at Chicago public schools. The city says the teachers union, shocker, is refusing to discuss returning to classrooms, even with safety measures and protocols in place. Ooh, I wonder if they have another agenda. The union claims they are being forced to go into buildings without adequate protections. They have filed new unfair labor practice charges against the city. You know who loses? The kids. And you could soon enjoy the taste of Chick-fil-A on Sundays.
This is huge.
The fast food chain will begin selling its signature dipping sauces at grocery stores. They will be available at supermarkets in 5 states next month. All the proceeds will go toward a scholarship initiative for employees. A nationwide rollout is slated for next year. Will got very happy, then he got very sad. I will say I already have one of those in my fridge. And when I go,
the dipping sauce?
The dipping sauce in a bottle, and I on occasion walk by the fridge and I just squirt it straight in.
I believe you 100%.
Because it is 100% true, and it is so good. Chick-fil-A dipping sauce, I will take it to my grave.
I understand why Chick-fil-A doesn't sell on Sundays, but you are missed on Sundays, Chick-fil-A.
Correct.
Adam Klotz, though, you're not missed because you're here with the weather.
Hey guys. Hey, good morning, guys. You know what I'm tracking out there? Hurricane season continues, even though we're now running up on November. Plenty of cold air across the country, but not down in the tropics. This is the system we're paying attention to. Currently, Tropical Storm Zeta, winds at 40 miles an hour. This is what we're going to have to continue to watch. It's going to bump up into the Gulf of Mexico, where the water is still relatively warm, climbing up to a Category 1 hurricane. When are we talking about a potential landfall with this? Well, these are all of our tropical models. This is going to be running along the Gulf Coast, Louisiana, maybe over to the Florida Panhandle sometime on Wednesday. Boy, guys, it's been a busy season, and we have yet another storm to pay attention to the next couple of days. Back out to you.
All right. Thanks, Adam.
Thanks so much, Adam. Early voting numbers surging across the country, and one state in particular is shattering records. Senator Marsha Blackburn tells us what she's seeing on the
early voting records, with over 1.4 million ballots already cast throughout the state. Let's bring in Senate Judiciary Committee member and author of The Mind of a Conservative Woman, Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn. Senator, thanks for being here. You know, there's some wonderment about whether or not all this early voting is a good sign for Democrats, because traditionally they're the ones that get out for early voting, absentee balloting. But your state, Tennessee, which is reliably conservative, is also turning out heavy. This is what Tennessee did in 2012, 1.4 million voters, so you've already matched that. And in 2016, it was 1.6 million early voters, so getting close already with 9 days to go to the 2016 total. So what does that tell you about whether or not these early votes are leaning left or right?
What it tells us is that you've got a lot of people out there, like the Cato Institute survey said, 62% do not want to tell you how they're going to vote. And then you look at the Gallup survey that you all have discussed, Will, 56% say they're better off now than they were 4 years ago. And I'll give you two examples of how this is summed up for me. I talked with a woman this week who is an independent. She said, I am exhausted with living in fear. What I want is normalcy. And I think that Donald Trump is the one who is going to get us back to a solid starting point for recovery faster than Joe Biden, because what got her was Biden talking about locking down the economy again. So she changed her vote. And the second thing that we are seeing is people that say, and I had a woman change her vote on this. She said, I don't think I can trust Joe Biden to deal with China. And China has caused all of this chaos and upheaval, and you have to deal with China. And she said, you know, I'm not buying anything that says made in China.
Right. We talked to a panel of undecided voters a little bit earlier, Senator, and that cancel culture, that radicalism of the left was something that was playing into their minds as well. You sit on the Senate Judiciary Committee. You scheduled to confirm Judge Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court tomorrow. President Trump has redrawn American political lines in so many ways in 4 years, on economy, on foreign trade, on China, as you mentioned. But when it comes to accomplishments in his first term, where would you put 3 new Supreme Court justices?
I put it at the top of the heap. And one of the reasons you were seeing the left fight this so fiercely is because they do not want a female from the political center right on the Supreme Court. You know, Will, they have invested the last 45 years into creating a narrative that you are not fully female in this country unless you bend to the agenda of the left, unless you are going to fight for the leftist version of women's rights and worker rights. And now they're seeing that barrier shattered, and conservative women step to the forefront, and they're not happy.
And really quickly, Senator, it seems to have been exposed by hypocrisy. I think I have time. I want to just play this back from Amy Coney Barrett's hearing. You were there. Your fellow Senator Mazie Hirono said this about Amy Coney Barrett and her choice in language.
Thank you very much. What a great place. What a great place. What a place we had.
That's the wrong clip. Senator, I apologize. It's basically when she said Amy Coney Barrett was wrong and offensive for using the term sexual preference as opposed to sexual orientation. She's then since been pushed on, well, Joe Biden has used that same exact term. Should he apologize? And she holds him not to the same standard, Senator.
You know, I think the most telling thing about that exchange, Will, is that after it happened on October 12th, 13th, Merriam-Webster changed their online dictionary to come in line with what the left was saying on that definition.
Right.
That just shows you how closely aligned all of these tech companies are with the Democratic Party.
Well, it just also shows whether or not it's a matter of principle or a matter of politics as well.
That's right.
Senator Marsha Blackburn, thanks so much for your time this morning.
Good to be with you. Thank you.
All right. NFL Week 7 is here, and Fox has a slew of...
Carvana, they told us that selling cars 100% online wouldn't work. But we went to work, building an experience that lets you shop over 17,000 cars from home, creating a coast-to-coast network to deliver your car as soon as tomorrow, recruiting an army of customer advocates to make your experience incredible, and putting you in control of the whole thing with powerful technology. That's why we've become the nation's fastest-growing retailer, because our customers love it. See for yourself at Carvana.com.
At Chewy, we know the best moments with our pets are made even better with food, so you can save on their favorite meals in between meals, late night snacks, toys that look like meals, and even prescriptions, all delivered right to your door. Get great prices and fast free shipping at Chewy.
Every customer has their own Safelite story. This couple was on a camping trip when their windshield got a chip. They drove to Safelite for a same-day repair, and with their insurance, it was no cost to them.
Really?
That's service you can trust.
Safelite Repair, Safelite Replace.
New revelations in the Hunter Biden controversy. Inside the latest details surrounding his whistleblower. Plus, calls to hold big tech responsible for their censorship. The exclusive interviews on Sunday Morning Futures.
Do you listen to the TV on high volume or have trouble hearing conversations? Then you would benefit from hearing aids. Don't waste thousands on expensive hearing aids when you can get Nano's revolutionary technology for just $297. Don't be fooled by higher-priced hearing aids. The CIC Recharge is a true hearing aid, not an amplifier. With rechargeable technology many customers say is superior to more expensive models. Call now and get not one, but 2 Nano hearing aids for just $297. Plus, we'll add a portable charging case and ship your order absolutely free. The CIC Recharge has a tiny in-the-ear canal design that is nearly invisible. Why keep missing out on important conversations or waste thousands of dollars? Call and get 2 CIC Recharge hearing aids for only $297 and free shipping.
800-325-4991. Again, that's 800-325-4991.
What if I sleep hot?
Or cold?
Introducing the new Sleep Number 360 smart bed, now temperature balancing, so you can sleep better together.
Can it help keep me asleep?
Absolutely. It intelligently senses your movements and automatically adjusts to keep you both effortlessly comfortable.
Can it help with snoring?
I've never heard snoring.
Exactly.
No problem. And done.
So you can really promise better sleep?
Not promise, prove. Save up to $1,000 on the new Sleep Number 360 smart bed and adjustable base, plus 0% interest for 24 months and free delivery. Ends Monday.
Selling your house is hard. From prep to open houses to hoping for offers. But what if you could sell your house in just a few days with no hassle? Now you can with Simple Sale from HomeLight. Just answer a few quick questions about your house. We'll collect offers from our network of cash buyers and introduce you to the highest bidder. Now, selling is simple. To see your Simple Sale price, go to homelight.com/simple today.
It is Week 7 of the NFL on Fox, and what are the biggest matchups?
Here to help figure it out is Fox sideline sports reporter Jen Hale. Good morning, Jen. I'm going to bet.
Morning, guys. How are you?
I'm going to bet it's Brady again, right? Biggest matchup, biggest headlines, biggest stars. It's got to be the greatest quarterback of all time. With, by the way, a new wide receiver who won't be on the field yet, but a new wide receiver in Antonio Brown. Am I right, Jen?
Yeah, not yet, guys, but it is coming. So Brady and the Bucs in Vegas getting ready to take on the Raiders, but back home in Tampa, that front office is betting big on embattled wide receiver Antonio Brown. They've agreed to a one-year deal. Tom Brady, by the way, a major force behind this. And you're right, you're not going to see AB probably until Week 9, 2 weeks from now. But I say no AB, no problem. I've got Tampa by 14 in this one.
How about Green Bay? They're fresh off a bye week. They've been looking good. Another top quarterback. What do you have? Who do you have there?
Green Bay, I think Aaron Rodgers is on fire for some redemption here. He had a really humiliating loss, one of the worst in his career. I think Devontae Adams is going to be back towards that Pro Bowl form, another week for that hammy to heal up. But Aaron Jones, leading rusher, he's questionable today with a calf, so I think it could be close. I'm going Packers by 3.
Might as well ask you. I don't think I'm going to like the answer, but, I mean, America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, is down to their 3rd string, I think, all across the offensive line. They take on the Washington football team today, Jen.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough one for the Cowboys. This is uphill sledding with all of the injuries they've had, just a rash of them. I got to go with the Washington football team here, but hey, adversity brings out either the best or the worst in a team. So maybe, Will, you'll see one of your new stars emerge from all of this.
Oh, the opportunity side of the coin. New stars emerging. Good, Jen, appreciate that sunny outlook. All right, Fox Bet Super 6 is giving away $1 million of Terry Bradshaw's money. What should folks know?
Yeah, it's free to play. All you have to do is download the app, and that's free too. And if you are correct in your score predictions, you could win $1 million. And who couldn't use that? I know I certainly could, guys.
Not just $1 million. Terry Bradshaw's $1 million.
Terry Bradshaw's millions.
If
yes,
I could win Pete's money, it would make it 10 times sweeter.
And it
Terry
wouldn't be $1 million, I'll tell you that. I got $20 in my wallet. Jen, thank you so much. Appreciate your time. We'll be watching. What game are you on today?
Today I'm in Atlanta. I've got Lions and Falcons. Matt Stafford, can you believe 12 years in the NFL? He's never played a pro game here in Georgia, his home away from home. So that'll be a sweet homecoming for him. He's excited.
Highland Park, Texas boy, but he did go to Georgia. You're right, Jen.
Yes, yes.
All right.
Last time he played here, 2008, he was